The doorbell rang twice, sharp and impatient. Margaret froze in the kitchen, dish towel twisted in her hands. Robert looked up from his newspaper, eyebrows raised. Neither of them expected visitors at 7:42 on a Tuesday evening in their quiet cul-de-sac in suburban Ohio. When Margaret finally opened the door, the man standing there was tall, broad-shouldered, impeccably dressed in a charcoal blazer and jeans that fit like they were made for him. His face was striking. High cheekbones, clear skin, dark eyes that seemed to see straight through her. He smiled, small and knowing. "Mom," he said. "Dad, it's me, Drex." Margaret's knees buckled. Robert's newspaper slipped to the floor. The boy they had last seen at 12 years old, scrawny, acne-scarred, awkward, the child they had quietly decided the world would be better without, had returned as a man they would have crossed the street to admire. 20 years earlier, Drex had been the kind of kid other parents whispered about. Too thin, too clumsy, skin that broke out at the slightest provocation, hair that never lay right. To Robert and Margaret, he was an embarrassment. They were good, church-going people who kept their lawn manicured and their opinions polite, but at home they measured love in appearances. When Drex's middle school classmates started calling him names, when teachers sent notes home about social adjustment issues, the shame grew too heavy. One humid August afternoon, they drove him to the county fair, told him to wait by the Ferris wheel, and never came back. Child Protective Services picked him up after 2 hours. The report was brief. Abandoned minor, no note, no forwarding address. Drex spent the next 6 years bouncing between foster homes, each one colder than the last. He learned quickly that silence was safer than speaking. He learned that being different invited fists and cruel laughter. And by 14 he understood something else. He liked boys the way other boys liked girls. The first time he admitted it to himself, alone in a dark bedroom with the foster dad snoring down the hall, he cried until his throat hurt. Not because he hated who he was, but because he knew the world did. High school was survival. Drex attended 3 different ones in 3 years. He kept his head down, grades average, friends non-existent. But in his junior year, at a new school outside Columbus, he met Ms. Carter, the art teacher who refused to let him disappear. She saw the sketches he hid in his notebook, rough portraits of classmates, city skylines, faces he imagined as kinder than real life. She gave him supplies, a corner of the art room, and the first real praise he'd heard since childhood. "You have an eye," she told him. "Don't waste it." He started working out in secret, using the school gym after hours when no one was around. Not to impress anyone, just to feel less fragile. Puberty arrived late but generously. The acne faded. His jawline sharpened. By senior year, he was no longer the kid people pitied. He was the quiet one people noticed. College came on scholarships and stubbornness. He majored in graphic design at Ohio State, worked 2 jobs, slept 4 hours a night. That's where he met Jordan. Jordan was a journalism major from Chicago, 2 years ahead, openly gay, and completely unafraid of it. He had an easy laugh, warm brown eyes, and a habit of calling everyone darling, whether they liked it or not. Their first conversation happened in the campus coffee shop when Jordan bumped Drex's table and spilled his drink. "Sorry, gorgeous," Jordan said, grabbing napkins. "Let me buy you another." Drex blinked. No one had ever called him gorgeous before. He mumbled something and tried to leave, but Jordan followed him outside. "You always run from compliments?" Jordan asked. "I'm not used to them," Drex admitted. Jordan tilted his head. "Well, get used to them. You're kind of impossible to miss." They started as friends. Coffee turned into late-night study sessions, then walks across campus, then hands brushing accidentally on purpose. Drex had never let anyone close enough to risk heartbreak, but Jordan was patient. He didn't push. He listened when Drex talked about foster homes, about the fair, about the parents who decided he wasn't worth keeping. One night, under a street lamp outside the library, Jordan kissed him soft, certain, like he'd been waiting for permission his whole life. Drex kissed him back. For the first time, he felt wanted. Not tolerated. Wanted. The relationship wasn't easy. Jordan's family was loud, Italian, and Catholic in the way that meant Sunday dinners and guilt trips. They accepted him eventually, but it took time. Drex had no family to introduce, only ghosts. They fought about small things. Jordan's habit of leaving dishes in the sink, Drex's tendency to shut down when he felt vulnerable. They fought about bigger things, whether Drex should try to find his parents, whether he owed them anything. "You don't have to forgive them," Jordan said one night after a particularly bad argument. "But you also don't have to carry them forever." Drex stared at the ceiling. "I don't know what I want." They moved in together after graduation. Drex landed a job at a design firm in Chicago. Jordan started at a local news station. Life settled into a rhythm. Weekend farmers markets, quiet evenings on the couch, arguments that ended in apologies and laughter. They adopted a rescue dog named Milo. They talked about the future in careful, hopeful terms. Then came the modeling scout. It happened at a coffee shop near their apartment. A woman handed Drex her card, said he had the look. He laughed it off. Jordan didn't. He made Drex send the photos. Within months, Drex was booking small gigs, catalogs, local ads, then bigger ones. By 28, he was traveling for shoots, earning more in a week than he used to make in a month. The irony was not lost on him. The face that once made his parents ashamed now paid the bills. He never forgot where he came from. Every paycheck he put money aside, not for revenge, for closure. Jordan noticed the savings account growing. One evening he asked, "You're going to see them, aren't you?" Drex nodded. "I think I have to." Jordan squeezed his hand. "Then we go together." The drive from Chicago to Ohio was quiet. Milo stayed with a friend. They listened to playlists they'd made years ago, the ones that still felt like first dates. When they pulled into the cul-de-sac, the house looked smaller than Drex remembered. The paint was peeling. The lawn needed mowing. They sat in the car for 10 minutes before Drex opened the door. Margaret answered. She looked older, hair thinner, eyes tired. She stared at him like he was a salesman. "Can I help you?" "Mom," he said again. "It's Drex." Her hand flew to her mouth. Robert appeared behind her, slower, grayer. Recognition hit them both like a slap. They let him in. Jordan stayed by the door, silent support. The living room smelled of old coffee and mothballs. Margaret kept touching her throat. Robert sat heavily on the couch. You're beautiful," Margaret whispered. Drex didn't smile. "I know." They asked questions in fragments. Where had he been? Why hadn't he tried to find them sooner? Drex answered honestly. Foster homes, scholarships, Chicago, Jordan. He watched their faces change when he said the last part. Jordan, his partner of 9 years. Robert's jaw tightened. Margaret looked away. "We didn't know," she said. "You didn't want to know," Drex replied. "You left me at a fair because I was ugly, because I embarrassed you. You didn't even leave a note." Margaret started crying. Robert stared at the carpet. Jordan stepped forward, calm. "He's done well. He's happy. He didn't come to hurt you. He came to decide whether he can let you back in." Drex looked at them, two people who had shaped his entire life by walking away. "I'm not here for money," he said. "I'm not here for apologies, though I'd listen if you had any. I'm here because I needed to see if you've changed as much as I have." The silence stretched. Margaret spoke first. "We were young, scared. We thought we were doing the right thing." "You thought a child was disposable," Drex said quietly. Robert cleared his throat. "We looked for you. Once. The agency said you'd been placed. We thought you were better off." Drex laughed, short and bitter. "Better off, right?" Jordan touched his arm, grounding him. They talked for hours. Not all of it was kind. There were tears, accusations, long pauses. Margaret admitted they still went to the same church, still prayed for him every Sunday. Robert said he regretted it every day. At one point Margaret reached for Drex's hand. He let her take it, but only for a moment. When the conversation finally wound down, Drex stood. "I don't know what happens next," he said. "Maybe nothing, maybe something. But I'm not the boy you left behind." And I'm not asking for your permission to live my life. Jordan stood beside him, solid and sure. They left without hugs. No promises. Just the weight of 20 years lifted slightly. In the car, Jordan asked, "You okay?" Drex looked back at the house. "I think so." They drove away under streetlights, the road stretching toward Chicago and the life they had built together. Do you think Drex should give his parents a second chance? True or false?